Richard was talking about on our screens, but we're blessed to have Adib Saani with us. So, Mr. Saani, really, what's your reaction when you hear this?
Well, there are instances of pockets of insecurity on campuses. I remember during my days at the University of Ghana, Legon, we used to go to where we call bush to ease ourselves, and there were always reported cases of people approaching you with machetes and demanding your phone. So it is not surprising, but times have changed, and I speak as someone who lectures corporate, security, and the school is also seen as a corporate environment. It is important that there are certain security structures in place, but prominent amongst them should be the need for all the students to be security aware. If you constrict the management of security to just the administration and the head of security and his people, of course, you don't expect it to be progressive, but as part of campus life, it is important to imbibe into the students a sense of security awareness. But that notwithstanding, now modern technology has made it very possible for us to install systems such as CCTV. So currently, as it stands, information looks a bit sketchy, and we might not know the full thing until the school authorities perhaps release some CCTV footage. Right. We have alarm systems these days, and technology has made it such that almost everybody has access to a mobile phone, and in case of an emergency, you can call the appropriate authorities, but the response time is also extremely key. I do understand that it is quite a large campus, and maybe some areas might be a bit remote from others, but I think going forward, I don't know what the security structure is like on campus, but the security personnel are strategically placed. So anytime something goes wrong, within a minute or even two, you can have security personnel responding in time.
Now, it's important for us to look at this in the broader context of security on campuses, because I remember visiting the University of Ghana campus because there was a robbery incident, an attack actually on a student on that stretch of road after Pent, going towards, I think it's Bani Hostel.
That's treacherous road,
Thank you. It's been called a treacherous road. Students again agitated, and then after that we saw that security personnel were placed there to man that stretch regularly. In managing the security of a group of students, a group of people as sensitive as students, what are the key safeguards that we must be looking at?
Well, first of all, Daniel, every campus needs to have a security strategy. Most of the responses to issues of campus insecurity is ad hoc. They are afterthoughts. So something has happened, so we take this step, like you mentioned, and so students were robbed. They didn't see the need to have a security personnel. But for crying out loud, I mean, a very basic security audit would tell you how bushy the place is and how effective it would be for the criminals to, conduct their operations. As a matter of fact, when we were on campus, it used to be far more common than it was lately, because at that time, the lighting system there was very poor. It was extremely dark, okay? So it was robbery after robbery that prompted the authorities to, as it were, put the lights there. But that notwithstanding, it didn't stop it until a security post was put there. But you see, when you have a strategy, you are able to conduct a full, and this is something that I teach to corporate, institutions. There's the need for a security audit, and that should be led by the head of security. Enter the criminal mind. Take a walk around the campus. If you were a criminal and you want to harm a student, what do you do? So I always tell even people I come across, just walk around your house, do a security audit, enter the criminal mind. How would you access to pick something from that house? And we've come to the realization that a lot of criminals are able to enter your facility through the kitchen door or the kitchen window, because we let our guard down there, So the campus is an environment where there's the need for security, because without security, of course, teaching and learning will not be effective.
Of course.
So with that security audit, you can encapsulate it into a strategy that would actually foretell and preempt and prevent some of these insecurity incidents from even happening in the first place. But the unfortunate thing, we're so reactive rather than being proactive to issues of campus security. And I mean, it is depressing, because these are parents who have entrusted their children under your care. So if you don't put in the necessary protocols and mechanisms, and most importantly, structures in place to ensure they are safe, what would you tell the parents? So this is a wake-up call. I mean, all across board, all universities should take campus security extremely serious. But Daniel,
and let me just inform viewers that the video you see on your screen is what Richard was describing to us, of students running away when they realized that, when they got the alarm that some persons were being attacked at gunpoint. So please go ahead, Mr.
And one thing we are forgetting about, you know, the campus environment cannot contain all students. Most of them live in hostels around. Okay, I think it is high time school authorities take a walk to all these hostels. Okay, you should have a list of approved hostels. These are hostels we want our students to stay. Okay, before a landlord gives you access to his property, you should have gone to the school authorities, confirm that indeed this is an approved hostel, and that should be based on their security assessment, at least to some extent, of the hostel. If you have a hostel without burglar proof, I mean, you can imagine it becomes extremely accessible, because what these criminals do is these sliding windows, they are able to open it, okay? And they use what we call kwakwela stop. Okay, it's a long stick with an end that is able to pick anything from a phone to even a laptop, okay? So by assessing, you can recommend to the students, okay, we've done our assessments of these hostels, and we think to some extent they are safe. But most importantly, like I said, it is important to imbibe into the students a sense of security awareness.
I want you to look at this part of the conversation. Richard just reported to us that as at the time that he spoke to the university authorities, they had received no official report of the incident. The police on UCC campus have also received no official report of the student. There is a possibility that this could be a false alarm. Yeah. But what does this say about the responsiveness of the authorities on campus?
You see, the thing is, you don't have to wait to receive an official report from the students. You can take the trouble to ascertain the facts of the matter. That shows the response is really slow, because by now, school authorities should have been able to tell us tentatively that yes, indeed, it is true. No, it is not true. Okay, but the fact that they're still not very sure about what has happened means they themselves are not even sure about what's going on campus. And that is quite disturbing, because the response is extremely key. And I expect that by this time, they should have gone back to the CCTV, played back to see whether indeed something of that nature might have happened or not. But the problem is, usually we have the CCTVs everywhere. When something happens, you go to play back, oh, there was a problem, it's not working. We don't always check. And I speak as someone who provides security systems. Sometimes you install the CCTV for someone, the person doesn't play back, he doesn't touch it. He leaves it there for a very long time until something goes bad. Then he goes to check, only to realize maybe the hard disk might have crashed or something. So it is important, periodically, they have to do an assessment, reassessment, make sure they have a second check of all their security system to make sure everything is in order. Because security, I must say, Daniel, is extremely key.
So your point is that the university officials and basically corporate institutions should be more proactive about the security of the persons they're in charge of.
Exactly, because there's always a tendency of us being reactive. And it's a general Ghanaian thing. You see someone put up a multi-million-dollar edifice. You go to tell him, to convince him to buy CCTV or surveillance system for 5,000 cedis. And he doesn't see the need. Oh, you see, this area is a peaceful area. You know, this is a prime area until something happens. And mind you, over 90% of my clients are people who have been victim of crime before. You know, we are not generally proactive, and that is quite disturbing. That's why I've always stated that within the security context, you know, rather than us thinking is the preserve of the men and women in uniform, if you involve the people in the security maintenance process, it helps. You know, when you go to other jurisdictions, you think people don't watch. Do something and see. An old woman like 90 years, would report and give a vivid description of you to the police. But here it's all about the UFIAS, you know, everybody is minding his business. Next door neighbor can kidnap people and nobody would know.
I know that the students have been on campus for a while, but with the COVID-19 and the reduced numbers on the campus, what are some of the extra measures we should take to ensure that, because when there's a boarding school and there aren't that many students, that means there's more empty spaces,
yes,
more places for persons who would want to plus nefarious activities to hide. What's the advice you have for the school authorities?
We have to concentrate the students at a point, at a common area. You don't have to leave them scattered. That will be extremely dangerous because some of them go to study at night, very late into the night, then they go back to their dormitories. But when you have them all clustered at a common area where proper security would be provided with all the surveillance systems in place, it would help to a very large extent. We should also have a concentration of campus security there as well. And generally, I expect that we know that campuses are not to full capacity. When the students come, they are given some orientation, reorientation on these extraordinary times because, of course, things are not as they used to be, about the need for them to exercise a great deal of discretion about their movements and let them know we are not in normal times. I mean, what we used to do today, you cannot do it. Unfortunately, I doubt they have done that. I strongly doubt.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saani. And let's quickly wrap up with, you know, the main issue that we had wanted to discuss. But of course, you'd understand that when the news breaks, we need to deal with it and deal with it effectively. The issue of members of parliament having protection. It has been a conversation that started way back when J.B. Dankwedu, of blessed memory, passed. And now we've seen this gruesome murder of Ekokwanta Hayford. Do you subscribe to the opinion that members of parliament should have added security?
Well, Daniel, without mincing words, that is selfish, that is inward-looking, that is unscientific, it is not sustainable, and it doesn't speak to the real broader contextual issue of security. You see, Daniel, it would interest you to know that with even 10 bodyguards, if these guys want to hit, they would hit and hit effectively. There are instances where these criminals are able to go after police personnel in broad daylight. And a classical example being what happened at La Paz. You remember recently we had a bullion van. I mean, everybody knows a bullion van carries money and there's always a police escort with a fully loaded AK-47 assault rifle. But they were able to go after the bullion van. You see, these criminals have become so vicious. They've become so emboldened by the day. And so we have to take practical measures to stem the tide, which, by the way, would inure to the benefit of all Ghanaians, including the members of parliament. Because, you see, providing them security would be tantamount to solving it at the local level, yet the main insecurity issue remains. And that is my issue I have with them, okay? I personally have done, you know, a lot of these parliamentarians are my friends. I've done security audits for them. Some of them have installed systems for them in their offices and their homes. But a lot more of them feel very safe. There are instances where they say that, oh, my constituents love me so much, nobody would hurt me. So even at the personal level, it is important that they exercise a great deal of discretion. But I still insist that rather we should deal with the wider issue of insecurity.
How do we deal with the wider issue? What are the steps we should be taking?
Invest in situational crime prevention. Create that environment, that situation where it would not be profitable to commit a crime. Today in Ghana, it is very profitable committing a crime. You know why? Because there's about an 80 to 90% likelihood that if you commit a crime, you'll be left off the hook in Ghana. Because our investigation capacity is so porous. We have failed consistently across the political divide to invest in modernizing crime and investigation in Ghana. It is manual. We don't use biometric systems. We don't use DNA systems. We have a lot of scattered biometric systems that is muddled in confusion and diffusion. The SNIT, national health, national identification, national health insurance. Why don't we integrate these systems, do some few legislative changes, and trust it in the hands of law enforcement under strict conditions. Okay, so at least when a police officer comes to this studio, I leave my DNA, my fingerprints all over the place. They are able to use the powder, harvest the fingerprints, run it in the database, and trust me, it would help to a very large extent in uncovering many of the murder mysteries we have in Ghana. If you go to other jurisdictions, they use DNA. Crimes, I'm sure you are aware, crimes that were committed in the 70s and 80s when it didn't exist are today solved.
Yeah.
Like the Golden State Killer who raped and killed a lot of women between the 1970s and the 80s. They got him using what we call in DNA technology genealogy. They arrested his grandson, took his DNA for a different offense, and realized, this boy, he's related to the Golden State Killer. So they investigated his uncles and got to find out that, yes, it was his grandfather who is the Golden State Killer, so now in his 90s.
Wow. So the key is in investing in our investigative machinery and systems.
Exactly.
Which would create a place where crime becomes a high-risk venture.
Yes, it will disincentivize the criminals from even going into it in the first place, knowing full well that now we have systems in place, and when I do the wrong thing, the law will surely catch up.
But isn't that a long-term measure, so that for our members of parliament to be safe today, we put in this added security as a stopgap? These are 275 individuals who are needed in the country.
Yeah, but the thing is, you see, addressing the security issue in Ghana is multidimensional, it's multifaceted. We cannot rely on just one approach, okay? But I strongly doubt providing them security is an option, because what it would even mean is for each MP would have about 3 officers, one at home, one following him everywhere he goes, and another one at his office. And these guys run shifts, because you cannot have one perform throughout 24/7. It is not possible, okay? So that would be a drain on the already limited number of police officers we have. But I think we have short-term approaches to all of these. One of it is for law enforcement to collaborate with institutions, I mean with CSOs like the Dadzie Center for Human Security and Peace Building, so we are able to educate. Education is extremely key. You wouldn't believe that there are still people who fall for, oh, I mistakenly sent 2,000 Ghana, please send it back. You and I might be enlightened, but there are a lot of people out there who are not really sure about what is going on. So education in the interim is extremely key, okay? We need to also, you know, hasten up the cases before courts with these guys. I mean, sometimes they are remanded in prison for a very long time. Okay. It's not very, you know, progressive, but we need to make it much more faster and progressive. Okay. And the problem is a lot of these cases presented to the courts, and I've spoken with judges, I've spoken with police personnel, is based on circumstantial evidence. Oh, Daniel, you were there at the time the crime was perpetrated, so you perpetrated it. Oh, we found a murder weapon in your car, so you killed. No. No serious judge would take you serious when you go before him with such evidence.
So it goes back to the investigation.
Exactly, it goes back to the
data gathering, the evidence gathering systems that we have.
Yes, and the general awareness, because there's still a lot of people who, when leaving their house, they leave their keys under the doormat, in the flower pot, under the flower pot. A lot of us don't exercise some discretion when it comes to our social media habits, because what these criminals do is they use the information you put out there to establish what we call a profile of you in criminology. And once someone knows at 2 p.m. you will be here, and at 3 p.m. you will be there, the person has every information about you. Have you ever wondered, and this is a challenge to our viewers out there, you have a conversation with someone on WhatsApp about shoes, the next minute you go on Facebook, shoe adverts.
Yes, it happens to me all the time. I always wonder.
Well, there are two
How
things.
is that possible?
There are 2 things. Those cookies we accept. The cookies, when you go to a website, oh, there are cookies, then you accept. They collect a lot of information about you. In fact, what it means is you have given yourself out. They know everything about you, your habits online, everything, and they can use it to target market you. And secondly, we click everything we see online. Oh, click here to see who admires you on Facebook. Click here to see how you would look like in 10 years. Click here to see what Obama thinks of you.
What kind of musical instrument are you? What kind of animal?
Exactly. It's called phishing, not the F-I, the P-H-I. You see, when you do that, they collect that information and they are able to use it through your habits online to target, to know what you like and what you don't like. So when you get pregnant, you don't have to even tell anyone. They will send you the baby tips.
All right. Adib Saani, thank you very much for joining us this morning. He's the head of Dadzie. What's the name again?
Dadzie Center for Human Security and Peace Building.
Dadzie Center for Human Security and Peace Building. He's a security analyst. He joined us to discuss the UCC robberies, alleged robberies, and of course, the debate about whether or not members of parliament should have added security. We also ended with a few personal tips. Those are the parts I love. Be careful of the things you click and the cookies you accept. Be very, very careful. This has been Beyond the Headlines. We are going into that exciting discussion about breast care. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Pink October, and MFA leads that discussion. Stay with us.